All right, today it's best of 2019 aquarium heaters. We're going to go through a whole bunch of different things, and heads up, there's a new one here on the shelf here, so we'll talk about that in just a second. But we're going to go through these, and you're going to find out by the end of this, you'll know which one is the most popular.
Yeah, we're also got the most economical, and which one has the best precision, so the on and off cycle.
We'll also talk about which one is the most reliable of the bunch up here. And then, of course, finish with the best in show, as well as what we'd like to see for 2020. All right, so single most popular heater of 2019, it is the 300 watt Eheim heater. Now this is, we're talking about just like one single SKU that is the most popular of all we sell. It's this 300 watt from Eheim. It's super cheap, and they've been out for, I don't know, eons. It's actually the type of heater that I used in my first tank 15 years ago.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so it's giant though. I mean, make sure that you have this level of room inside of your sump to be able to put it wherever you need it. It's also glass, which some people don't like, but that's part of why it makes it probably super cheap and why it's so popular. I'm sure price point has attached to why it's so popular. But as an entire line, what heater is actually the most widely selling?
So for us, it's the Finix. So Finix, between two controllable versions, the HMO and the HMA, those make up primarily like half of what you guys are buying. The other half, though, is made up of just the Finix heating elements alone, meaning that you're using something else to control them. Yeah,
so you can see there's just a heater here. There's no controller or anything on it. And so with most of the Finixes, though, it has a controller and a thermostat built into the head here. And but half of them go here and half of them go here, and you're probably plugging this into an external controller like this one.
Yeah.
I would not recommend plugging this directly into like an Apex, and the Apex people will tell you the same thing. You always want to have some kind of redundant. So use an external thermostat and then plug that even into your Apex. The same way you would plug this one into your Apex, so you have two, this one and the Apex, or whatever controller that you're using. So
that's the most popular.
As voted by you guys, single most popular, this one, as an entire line, by far landslide, the Finix brand of aquarium heaters. All right, so most economical heater of 2019 of all the heaters that we sell, I'm just going to narrow this down to one specific size because the 300 watt is the most common that's purchased by you guys. So what is it?
It's the Eheim Jaeger. I mean, this thing is about $5 to $10 cheaper in the 300 watt range than any other one, and again, the most popular, as we just found out.
So heaters is one of those areas where I think that low cost wins because there isn't a defining quality difference between a lot of them for the $5 or $10. So low cost wins a lot here. I will say that this one doesn't have like any real electronics or anything in it. It's just a bimetal thermostat inside, the little bendy strip that goes based on temperature and connects the two little magnets together. So super, super simple, inexpensive technology in here, and probably why it is the most inexpensive heater out there. So if you're looking to save a few bucks, use what people have been using for many, many years. That is it. Okay, so best precision of 2019 from any heater that we offer, and precision meaning the smallest on-off window and the ability to maintain and just peg that temperature. I've seen some of these as big as 2 to 3 degrees, and others much, much smaller. So which one is the best?
Well, for the best on and off, it's the Cobalt Neotherm. And in our two investigative testings that we've done historically over the span of a few years, this one constantly comes in at the most precise, within 5/100ths of a temperature range. So that's 5/100ths of a degree, 0.05.
So yeah, a bunch of them out there are like 2 degrees, right? So if you set it for 77, it could end up being anywhere between 76 and 78. And then I would say a lot of the Finixes and whatnot out there have like a few tenths to a half a degree switch on and off. This guy's hundredths. So if you really, really want to just peg the temperature and know that your temperature is super, super stable, this is the best option on the table. I did an Investigates many years ago. You repeated one like last year.
Recently,
This is it. It is not cheap, and it's kind of big, especially with the 300, because you get two heating elements that are dongled together. But it is definitely the most precise by a landslide. All right, so most reliable heater of 2019. This is probably the most important topic of all of them.
Yeah.
So which one is it?
Reliability to me means that less of a chance of it failing off, meaning that it's going to make my tank go cold, but more importantly, not failing on to where it just nukes the tank. And the winner today for best of 2019, most reliable, none of them.
I don't think you should trust any heater, to be
No.
honest, man. And I know that's not what anybody wanted to hear here, but like I think everybody should have realistic expectations for all the stuff up here. They range from $30. Some of them have been imported and gone through 4 levels of distribution before they got you.
Yeah.
So that means that like there's probably $4 in parts in some of these things, and 15-cent thermostats, and like this guy right here that is probably $35. Like this was not designed to last 100 years. In fact, I think the warranty on it's like 1 year,
Yeah.
right? It means that you are supposed to replace it. You're not supposed to wait around for it to wear out. So these things are designed to break, and this is one of those areas where if you wait for it to break, you just put yourself into a really low percentile pool of success for retanks. If you replace them before they break, you just put yourself into a pretty high percentage pool of successful reef tanks.
Yeah, I think the best advice, if we understand, and a majority of reefers and almost all of us will understand that these things will fail at some point. So the best advice is to throw them out before they do and replace them. You just increase your chances of success.
Absolutely. So best in show 2019, most reliable? None of them.
No.
All right, so best in show of 2019 heater, and this is going to be a blatant shill for the new BRS heater, and that's just because we got tired of waiting for somebody to make a decent heater and bring that over to the U.S. market, and so we brought it to you, and I think when you're at the end of this, you're going to be able to see exactly why this differentiates itself from all of them in some really, really clear ways. But end of story, you just don't want a multi-$1,000 investment and all of your pets that you've been taking care of for years riding on a $30 heater.
Yeah, $30, and we all know that these are going to fail. I mean, we just agreed that most commonly heaters will fail eventually, but that story ends today.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the first reason why the BRS heater is best in show. It starts off with just the heating element, which is German made, made by Chagall,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And like just feeling it, how much heavier do you think it is?
I mean, this is titanium, heavy duty. It feels like a completely different heater than any of the other ones I'm touching.
It's probably 3 to 4 times as heavy as your standard titanium heater. It's welded at the bottom. It's using multiple rubber seals and rather epoxy at the top to properly seal the top.
Yep.
And because of all that, this individual thing that's made over in Germany is warranted here by BRS for 3 years. And so BRS warranty means what happens when you call?
I mean, if anything happens in that 3 years, we're just going to replace it.
Yeah, so no shenanigans. We
Yeah.
just replace it. So we're going to stand behind the heater that's produced. For 3 full years, the heating element is just better. One of the things here is rather than hardwiring the heater to the controller, there's actually an outlet you can just plug it into. So what are some of the benefits of that?
Yeah, so now I've got independent pieces to my heating, redundancy. And what that means is if my heating element were to fail, if my controller were to fail, and in this case too, the temperature probe, if it were to fail, I can replace them all individually. So with my heating, with my temperature probe here, it plugs in, and now if this were to fail, I can just replace it. There's the 3-year warranty on the heater, which means we're going to back that within 3 years, but only 1-year warranty on the controller itself because of the moving parts. So one might fail before the other.
Yeah, so there's a relay in here, and so I think the thermostats and the controllers are the most likely thing to fail inside of these things. And so like you can see with these types of heaters, they're just hardwired into each other. So if anything fails, the whole thing fails. In this case, we have a German-made titanium heater that's going to last 3 years. And this guy is warranted to 1 year, probably last longer, but I would probably replace most aquarium controllers around the year point because they have relays inside of them that turn off. You can make them last longer, some we'll get to in just a second, by changing the on-off cycles and the precision, but this has definitely going to be able to make it more configurable and allow you to replace just the parts as needed. And the controller also has 2 outlets, so you can plug up to 2 heaters into it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned configurable and adjusting those temperature swings, which means this is calibratable. I mean, I can calibrate this thing to within 0.3 temperature swing, unlike many of the other heaters here, which are not calibratable, or like the Eheim, which is semi-calibratable. Once you know the temperature, you can sort of adjust for it with the red ring. This one I can actually calibrate to a specific temperature.
Yeah, almost none of the heaters out there allow you to calibrate them, and I can tell you that we've seen them off by as much as 6 degrees in the past. I mean, if you set it at 78, it could easily be 72, and it could also be 84,
Yeah.
right? And so you always want to check it. I think I got to the point where I can stick my finger in there and get pretty close at this point, but you always want to check it, and so almost none of them have the ability to calibrate them except for the Eheim. With the exception of this guy now, it has a temperature offset, and so you can calibrate it and make sure that you're getting the temperature that you actually want without trying to remember some kind of offset for all of your heaters. One of the other configurable components of the BRS heater is the precision element. So it allows you to adjust the on-off cycles for it. And some people might ask why you would want to do that. You can get it all the way down to 0.3, and there's a reason. There's a relay in there that turns on and off, and
Right.
it does wear out in all of the controllers in front of you. So
Yeah, I think those moving parts and mechanical parts of any type of controller, whether it's built into the heater or whether it's independent, that's probably the main point of failure because of how often it turns off and on.
really powering up and powering down any type of electronics is the hardest part in all of it. And the more times you do that, and it's probably tens of thousands of times a day with most standard heaters. So if you set it to like have a 2-degree window, it's going to power up and down much less frequently. That means that the controller of any of the ones out here will last a lot longer. So, but if you want a more precise window and you're willing to replace the controller before it breaks, then getting it all the way down to 0.3 is probably the best option. So this one actually gives you the keys to that and allows you to adjust it to your desires.
So to control the titanium heating elements, we have the BRS controller, and this thing has 2 separate heating outlets, and it means with the 100, 200, 300, and 600 watt heating elements, I can plug any combination into the controller up to 1200 watts and use both of them.
Yeah, that means you didn't have to buy 2 different controllers for it. You can just buy the heating elements that kind of stack up to it, and in the end will be a lot cheaper than some of the other options. And also super important is it has an actual alarm in there. So if something were to fail and it like started heating up the tank, or if it failed off and started cooling down the tank, an actual audible alarm goes off in your house. I think it also flashes at you.
Yeah.
And so like that's the big thing is because most people wouldn't know that like the tank got too hot just by looking at it
Right.
unless stuff is actually dying.
Right.
I need something to say, hey, come here and fix me. And that's a audible alarm. Also related to that is this probe guy. So if the probe actually gets disconnected or shorts out, it will also set off that alarm and turn off power to the heaters. So when it's time to replace this thing, in many cases it will also notify you. Okay, to sum that up, this is why the BRS heater is the best of 2019. It has a German-made welded titanium heater with a 3-year warranty, has a separate controller so either one can be replaced. The controller has alarms, it's configurable, it has calibration, and it also has the ability to adjust the precision on it. You can replace the temp probe, and it goes all the way up to 1200 watts.
So I think this is exactly what the industry's been looking for, not just on a new tank, but when it comes time to replace the cheap ones and throw them out before they break, this is a solid replacement. And in this case, we think it's the best in show, but we want to know what you guys think with thumbs up or comments below. But what's next for our desires for 2020?
Okay, so my favorite part of every one of these is what we'd like to see for 2020. And in this case, to some degree, I'd like to see tighter precision, meaning that we can get them all the way down to like 0.1 degrees. It's probably not needed, but like if you're talking improvements, why not? And this next one actually ties right into that, which is with fails off redundant relays in these things. And so if we had 2 relays in each one of the controllers here, one for off and one for emergency off,
Right.
you know, that would probably be the redundant, so we don't have to plug multiple controllers like into each other, right?
Yeah, you know, built in with that, as these controllers and things become smarter and we get, you know, Wi-Fi controllability, it would be awesome if we could have some smarter controllers out there that do notify us Wi-Fi or cell phone, and when we have an app that says, hey, your heater's gone below this, or hey, it's gone above this and I've shut myself off, or I've shut the heating elements off. It would be a really cool feature.
I think that is absolutely one. And so there are like nice little temperature controllers like this guy. So, you know, a lot of us will plug a controller into a controller. So often, you know, you'll plug one of these guys like right into your Apex, which is a controller into a controller. But if you don't have like a aquarium controller like the Apex, then people mostly plug these guys into something like this, right?
Right.
Into an actual temperature controller, which, by the way, you can pick this guy up separately and have all of the benefits that come with this one by plugging your normal aquarium heater into it. However, like, it would get kind of big if you plug this into one of these, right? Even though that's exactly what you're doing by plugging one of these into one of these,
right?
It just gets kind of big. So one of the nice things that I've seen out here is this little guy from Otto Aqua and the guys over at Coral View is the ability to just plug it into an outlet. You can plug any one of these things right into the outlet, and it'll just automatically turn off if it ever gets below, what is it, 72 and 84?
Yeah, so the window on this one's a little wide for my liking, and you know, maybe it would be great if they can tighten that up. But basically, well, I mean, it gives you another layer of redundancy over the built-in controller in some of these heaters, in that now if it fails off or fails on, this thing's got my back.
And it's super simple. So this guy, if you just take your heater and plug into it, it's already set to those things, so you don't even have to configure it. You just have that redundancy built right into it. Again, I talked to the guys over at Coral View, and they said they were open-minded, and they were gonna like play around with the prototype to be able to get it down to like something a little bit more manageable, like, you know, 76 to like 81 or 2 or whatever before it gets set off, because I don't think most people want to get all the way up to 84 before it goes off. But if that comes out, this is a great thing to be able to plug all those things in. So I'd like to see a little improvement on this guy, because to be honest, man, everybody that doesn't run a full aquarium controller should be plugging it into something like this, or plugging these guys into something like this, or even two of these in this case. So that's something I'd like to see, and I'd also like to see an alarm adjustment.
Yeah, so I mean, you can configure some of these things to, like my set point on the controller here will tell me whether or not it's gone over, the temperature's gone over, and emit an alarm. And it kind of built into that smart controller or Wi-Fi notifications, I'd like the ability to configure when my alarm would go off, whether I want it at 82, 84, 85, or whatever that may be, or even lower. That would be an awesome adjustment also.
Yeah, because I don't like false alarms.
Yeah.
So in the occasion that there once in a while I know it goes up a degree in the summer, I don't really care. It's maybe 2 or 3 degrees that I care, and so the ability to adjust that. So if somebody out there like takes what they learned today and builds maybe upgrades this guy here, but builds a heater that has redundant controls in there, so it automatically out the box has a redundant element for itself, which controls the temperature and then has an emergency off as well to make sure that it turns off. Most of us aren't that afraid of it just failing and the tank getting cold, because the tank can survive that for a pretty long time. It's overheating that most of us are concerned about. So, and then combined with your idea of getting the Wi-Fi element out of it and just actual notification on my phone, with today's smart homes and whatnot, Alexis or whatever, you should be able to pull that off.
Yeah, so until then, the best thing that we have for the 2019 is the new BRS heaters and heating elements. And if you'd like to check out the 100, 200, 300, 600, and the controller, all of that's available right here at this link, so click there and check out the new heaters.